I don't exactly have an idea for an intro this time around, but we need to talk about this game. Woohoo! We've got a brand new SpongeBob game for consoles and PC on our hands. How long has it been since the last one? That wasn't a remake of an existing game? Or a movie tie-in? Wow. Literally almost a decade. I can go on a lengthy tangent about how video games based on movies and TV shows aren't around so much anymore, but I'll give you what you came here for. As of January 31st, 2023, the brand new 3D platformer based on the iconic Nicktoon is officially available on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, and Nintendo Switch, SpongeBob SquarePants and the Chamber of Secrets, which is apparently frequently purchased alongside Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated and Krusty Cook-Off for the Switch. Did you know Krusty Cook-Off was initially a mobile game available for free on the App Store, but Nintendo and Nick want you to buy the exact same game for another platform with the extra charge of $30? Guys, I think something's wrong here. Where was I? Cosmic Shake is brought to us by THQ Nordic and Purple Lamp, as was Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated back in 2020. I have Rehydrated, and I've played a tiny bit of it. Not enough to where I can really judge it, but enough to where I can tell this game is building off of its foundation. You still got the tikis, the spin attack, the shiny objects, so on and so forth, but there is an entirely unique story. It is, and I quote, SpongeBob and Patrick meet the mysterious fortune teller Madame Cassandra, who gives them a vial full of mermaids' tears. Legend claims they grant wishes of those who are of pure heart. Naturally, the two best buddies get overexcited, and their flurry of wishes tears open the very fabric of space and time, all while releasing cosmic jelly onto Bikini Bottom and opening portals to strange wish worlds in the process. Now it's up to our heroes to rescue their friends who got lost in the wish worlds, and bring back Bikini Bottom's most iconic buildings. But Madame Cassandra has her own devious plan. Wait, what the hell? You gave away the last twist in the game's description? Well then, I'll count it as a blessing I never saw that part until after I finished the game. Way to ruin the surprise. So there's the story for you. SpongeBob and Patrick have done goofed it. Everyone and everything has been turned upside down as all the Bikini Bottomites were sucked into the messed up timelines that are now the town. They're different people with no memories of who they truly are, except for Patrick, who's now a balloon. You travel through the scrambled parts of town. Wild West Jellyfish Fields, to Karate Downtown, to Pirate Goo Lagoon, to Halloween Rock Bottom, to the prehistoric Kelp Forest, to medieval Sulphur Fields, and Jelly Glove World. Props to them for including such an obscure location as Sulphur Fields. I didn't remember it while playing the game. You'd better believe I had to look it up. This is a pretty good story for a SpongeBob video game. Not to mention pretty original. Kinda surprised that dimension hopping and ruined timelines aren't really a frontier that SpongeBob has covered. Until now, of course. There are 7 parts of Bikini Bottom, each one flipped on its head and very different from the last. This makes a pretty good blueprint for a SpongeBob platformer. I'm a pretty big fan of platformers myself, and SpongeBob is in my blood. So this spiritual successor to Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated must be the game that was made for me, right? Right? This game is, to an extent, a collectathon in addition to being a platformer. I'm a big fan of Spyro the Dragon, so in theory I should like this game. Let me just answer the big question first. Is SpongeBob SquarePants the Chocolate Shake any good? Yes. It is a fun time, and a perfectly good way to kill an afternoon. Will it take longer than that to complete? Probably. I may be comparing the game to Spyro, but the pacing of Cosmic Shake is a little different. Where the Purple Dragon has hub world levels and smaller levels you can travel to within them, the Yellow Sponge has worlds that function as singular and very long levels, so the game has more hours of entertainment. This is a good approach. Granted, I do probably prefer the levels within hub world levels, but that's not something I would change about this game. Spyro has that, and this game has this. That's part of both games' respective magic. Which level/world was my favorite? We'll get to that. But first, the control scheme. This game controls mostly pretty greatly. You've got the spin attack, the body slam, the karate kick, all the good stuff. Even for as many times as I meant to do the karate kick but confused the Y button for the B button for who knows why. I also love how whenever the game shows you how to control a move, there are frame-by-frame demonstrations with stills of SpongeBob from the show. Such a nice touch. There's also the hook swinging, which is good when you get used to it, but takes a second to get the hang of, no pun intended. How it works is you latch on and it swings you back and forth aggressively. Thankfully, the hook swing mechanic has a pretty large radius, if that's the right word for it. Should a hook even come into your field of vision, the icon appears, signaling that you can activate the move. Even if the hook goes off screen a little, you can still pull it off. But as for those instances where you're in the air and you need to use the hook swing as a means of getting from one platform to the next, you may be at the brink of falling to your doom. The hook is then there to save the day, but it pulls you up from where you were falling first. Involuntarily, too. Then it starts swinging you back and forth, and you can get off whenever you want. This mechanic can be a blessing and a curse. No momentum dies down no matter how long you swing for, which can be helpful because you have as much time as you need to plan your timing of when you let go. But it can also be a little disorienting or stressful even, because the swing itself is a full 90 degrees back and forth every single time. It is also hard to know when you let go in that respect. About one of my bigger control problems with this game, and this may sound a little dumb, the single jump. Maybe it's just that I've put so many hours into Crash Bandicoot 4 and still can't get anywhere near completion for my sanity, but the single jump in the Cosmic Shake feels kinda weak to me. The jump doesn't have a very high arc to it, it feels slightly longer than it is tall, and even then, the distance feels pretty short. I don't think it feels like I lost running speed or momentum while I used it, at least not entirely. Thank Neptune there's a double jump, but when it comes to just standard platforming and going from one platform to the higher up or further apart next, I feel like this is more reliant on double jumps than I should have to be. It sucks, because it really threw me off when I actually only needed to single jump. Like this bit here, where I kept dying because of that, and kept going back to the far-off checkpoint. It was such a pain in the. One other thing I really liked was how, by holding the jump button, you could glide. Kinda like the paraglider in Breath of the Wild. Only this time, the parachute is the Krusty Krab pizza. SpongeBob even sings the song when you use it, and it's not even recycled from the episode. It's re-recorded just for this occasion. You know if you saw the Season 1 video how happy this makes me as the biggest pizza delivery stand on the planet. Only thing is, it repeats quite often. A good, I'd say, 8 times out of 10 when you use the pizza glider. Back to the question of which world was my favorite. Again, if you saw the Season 1 video, you'd think it'd be the pirate-themed Goo Lagoon. Well, I'm bad enough at video games already when I first start them, but good goober, this world was actually such a slog. There was this moment here where I don't know what I did, but I got stuck in a circle and couldn't find the way out. Seriously, I had to use the world map in the pause menu just to escape, but that's the least of the problems. There was the aforementioned moment where the use of the single jump threw me off, and then all hell broke loose. Then there's this moment. I kept dying. Jumping from ship to ship, fighting off more and more enemies who require specific moves to defeat, and dropped in as the level went along, while trying to avoid flying and falling projectiles, and hearing the same exact voice clips triggered not just every time I died, sometimes multiple times in the same life, like every 2 freaking minutes, and it only got worse when I had to do the final mission of this world. Not only does it have like all the same problems as the bit that had preceded it, but it's also practically a logic puzzle trying to figure out how to get from one airborne ship to the next, while dodging projectiles and fighting enemies. I'm pretty sure Goo Lagoon is the longest stage of the game, sure felt like it. I started playing anywhere from 8 PM to midnight, I'm a night owl, and kept myself up till 3 AM trying to beat this monotonous level. I could also not stand the pom-pom boss fight in the prehistoric world. There's fire, cosmic jelly enemies, and getting past Rays of Tears, which required tricky timing and precision. Again, I couldn't stop dying, and resetting so the boss still had 3 hit points left every time it happened. Not to mention, I had to look up what to do to reduce the boss's hit points. I mean, there was this hint, I suppose, so you can call me a baby all you want, but I didn't know I could perform a spin attack on that, let alone that it was the idea. What I think was particularly annoying about it was when these guys clobbered me, so if I even so much as blinked, I would look like I was one of the enemies. I lost track of where I was while trying to avoid firewalls and other things. I was dead after these particular bits. They were crazy. But that isn't to say there weren't some really fun bits. While there was some tedious stuff like the repetitive cactus juice mission in World 1, and I'm sorry to those of you who like this stage, but pretty much all of the karate world until the end is kinda drawn out. But there's a lot that I found enjoyable too. I really liked how they brought back the snail transformation for the racing mission in the Halloween world, even if I'm not crazy about the episode it's from. There are also a ton of really cool skins, only a few of which I unlocked besides the campaign ones because I didn't pre-order the game. Shame though. From what I've seen, these DLC skins look like miles of fan service. Medieval Sulphur Fields might be my favorite level. It felt shorter, but that could be because I didn't play it all in one sitting like the other ones. There are some more puzzles, like figuring out which tower to go to for the different color keys, and platforming challenges like navigating from the bedroom to the ballroom with arrows pointing you in specific directions. And I think I've established that this game can be irritating, so at least this is one of those times where you can give tongue. Not to mention, the last world and final boss. Jelly Glove World was more abridged than the other levels. You can tell by that fact that it's radiating shorter level building up to a boss fight vibes. There's also a lot more fun with the platforming than ever before. Although, this also marks the introduction of a new mechanic that's at the end of the game for some reason. The Reef Blower. There's this mini-boss where you first use it. You fill the vacuum with these projectiles that get fired at you, and then shoot them back at the boss, and they're dead in a few hits. Have I mentioned that the combat in this game is kinda button mashy? The Reef Blower is a nice change of pace, but I feel like it happened a little late in the game. Final bosses are supposed to be the culmination of the entire moveset. Everything I've learned to do and use so far all throughout the game. So this doesn't even feel that way. But actually, while we're on the subject, no way was that the final boss. You can't tell me that I went through hours of long, padded stages with that much more difficult bosses, and even just missions within the stages before them, and that's what it was leading to. That was over in a minute. Oh! This would have been harder earlier, but this ain't my first rodeo, so I got this. Wait, that took me like a minute too! Okay, looks like pretty much everything's better. Now we just have another mission to talk to Cassandra and clean up the jelly and... Hey King Neptune, I was wondering where you were because you showed up in a trailer for this game. Based on what you said in the trailer, I thought you were going to be in like the opening cutscene. Now the game's basically over and you haven't shown up yet. I mean, I figure now there's not much left to do, so... Oh crap, twist villain alert, final boss. Now we have one last hurrah. A moderately less nauseating version of the pom-pom fight. Mutant Squidward. Well, I suppose this isn't the first time. This wasn't really the easiest or hardest boss in the whole game for me, but the setting and build-up do make this feel like a climax. That's all I could have asked for, really. At least I can say this game went out with a bang. Anyhow, the credits roll, playing the full Sweet Victory song, and then the rave music from Jellyfish Jam, and then Sweet Victory again, and then the rave music again. Video game credits are obnoxiously long. So that was SpongeBob SquarePants and the Sonic Snake. What did I think of it? Well, I like this game, make no mistake. But there are so many double-edged swords here, especially with the gameplay. The fishhook can be a lifesaver, but it's really aggressive and takes time to get the hang of. There are some pretty good platforming in places, but the single jump is surprisingly lackluster. There are some neat details like the Krusty Krab pizza, but this also just goes for a lot of the game in general. The same voice clips just repeat over and over while the stage is already very chaotic. There's an overall pretty good moveset, but the combat puts so much emphasis on spamming that it can make parts like the Pom-Pom boss or the entirety of Pirate Goo Lagoon some of the most miserable gaming experience I've had in years. I can't even sugarcoat it. They just were. And if I can be that harsh to the game, is it still something I'd recommend? Sure. While this game can be tedious or frustrating depending on what you focus on, I think there's just enough good to outweigh the bad here. The story is original, fun, and pretty funny on occasion. The voice acting and graphics are a treat. The level designs are fun, if a bit long. And there's enough fan service to fill an ocean. As a SpongeBob fan, this felt good to play. This game might not be perfect, but you can still feel the care put into it. I would go as far as to say there are some things I hate, but I like all the good elements here enough to recommend this to SpongeBob fans and platformer fans alike. I'll say beat the game in casual play, but don't complete it. I know I didn't. I would go play it again, but it's weird like that. I promise I'm done comparing this game to remastered 90s games, or sequels to remastered 90s games, but think of something like Crash 4. It's the best game in the franchise to play, but the worst one to complete. There's so much to do before you can brag that you completed the game, but there's a lot of content and pretty much perfect controls from the start to finish that I can play it casually anytime. Here, however, there are imperfections with the game itself apart from just completion. There was stuff that I found frustrating while I was playing just in story mode. Stuff like that just made me unhappy in general. And sure, I would get better at the game with experience, as with anything, but I have no plans of going for completion, and I'm admittedly not sure when I would play it over again. But this is all I've been playing for the last couple days. Now that I'm done with it for the time being, all I can think is,
Now what?
Damn you, SpongeBob SquarePants and the anonymous steak! To end this off, I don't know how relevant scores on a scale of 1 to 10 still are, but I'll give it 1 anyway. If it wasn't obvious already by the verdict, this is an easy 7 out of 10. Play it if you want, don't listen to IGN, and have a great rest of your day.